Hey, this is singer-songwriter and mental health advocate Stephanie Matthias. Be sure to check out my single Hero Side, available on all platforms now, and listen to Citywide Blackout, your home for the best indie artists.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Citywide Blackout, and Merry Christmas, one and all. This is my favorite season of the year. I love the holidays, so it's pretty appropriate for us to kind of cap off our 24 season talking all about Christmas, specifically the recently released book Christmas Stories Volume 2. And joining me is the creator of that book, Kevin Moore joins me. Kevin, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right.
And as I already told you, I love the name.
Oh, thank you, man. I love it too. All right, man. So now this book is a collection of short stories all around the Christmas theme. So what are these stories? Tell us about them, and does anything really tie them together beyond, of course, Christmas?
Well, yeah. So as it says, volume 2, right? So I originally wrote a little Christmas book about 5 years ago, and it did really well on Amazon. I didn't know what I was doing. I just kind of put it out there myself, and it did really well. It hit #1 in one of the categories. And it wasn't like your typical Christmas stories. It's not like sugar and spice and everything nice. I like to approach Christmas in all its colors, not just the color lights, but how some people like myself, I love Christmas. I love the music. I love the food. I love the wine. I love the food. I love the cheer. But there is also a lot of sad memories for me around Christmas. So I like to bring the dichotomy of Christmas into the short stories. So I think the theme, obviously, is it's set at Christmas time. And I think when things are around a holiday, especially a holiday like Christmas, it's sort of like raises the volume, right? So a situation between you and I any other time of year might not have the same level of, impact. And so that's what they have in common. It's like I try to take people that are flawed, because I love flawed people, and give them a situation that they try and rise above, and it just happens to be Christmas, and they happen to be dragging that U-Haul truck of memories and thoughts and, all of that with it. And my other 2 novels are paranormal. So my 2 seasons are like Halloween and Christmas. What can I tell you?
Hey, dude, I'm right there with you, man. I'm right there with you. Thanksgiving is good for overeating, but Halloween, man, I love the horror aspect. I love the costumes and all that good stuff. And then Christmas is like the really, pardon the pun, the polar opposite, because it's all about the cheer and the mirth and the laughter and the love and all that jazz. So it's like you have 2 very opposite ends of the emotional spectrum.
Yeah. But but the thing I think that ties Christmas with Halloween is like Christmas, you do have ghosts, right?
That's right.
So, a couple of my stories, there are, ghosts that are in them. And so I like to keep that going, because that's where it does relate to some of the, and what I realized as I got older, as you can see, I'm not a kid anymore. So I like to try and surprise myself, because then I think I'll surprise the reader. And I always like a character that is maybe running from something. And, I think that makes it for an interesting story.
All right. I want to go back to the flawed characters of your stories. Give us an example of one of these characters and kind of why you made them that way.
So one of my characters, his name is Dash Winters, and he lives in a place called Nowhere Falls. And the way he starts it is like Nowhere Falls is not a destination. It's the place you pass through to get somewhere. And yet he stops and decides he's going to live there for a short period of time. And that's when the magic happens. And there is a ghost in that story.
Ooh, okay. All right. So as you mentioned, this is a volume 2. It's a follow-up to your first book, Christmas Short Stories. What made you want to do another?
Well, I didn't really intentionally want to do another. My wife kept, because every Christmas the little book sold, and I loved it. And people would say, "Oh, I read that every year." And there was some really characters in there that I really love. You know, there's a story about it's called The Santa Suit, and it's about a little boy who goes to stay with the grandpa that is a curmudgeon and grumpy and has a bad rep, you know, from his mother. And he learned something about his grandfather that no one has ever told him. And so I love those stories. And I just was like, well, maybe I'll just add one or two stories to that book and just put it back out. And my wife kept coming after me, well, why don't you write another one? And I'm like, it's kind of hard to write a lot of short stories with a theme in mind, whether it's a scary theme, like a Halloween theme or Christmas. And so I started off with one story. I said, let me try to write one story and I'll put it in the old book and I'll just, put it out as, with one more story. And it was called The Sound of Snowflakes Falling. And it's about the lead character is basically someone who has completely detached from his life. And he's a young man. But the thing that keeps him going is at first it starts to snow and he hears the sound of the snowflakes. And he'll go walking in the middle of the night all alone. And then romance comes into his life. And it's sort of those two things propel him back into the world of the living. So I finished that one and I was like, okay, I think this is a good story. I could add that, but let me try another story. And then I was just, it was so funny because I was coming back from a trip and I was on a plane and I was reading a book and I was looking down and somebody passed me. And I believe it was a woman because of the scent. Her smell was it just left a beautiful wake. And then I thought, okay, so without seeing who that woman is, right? I let my imagination go. I was like, who is that person? And from her scent, it was like, I think I start off the story with something like Harlow Harper. This is what her name would be. Harlow Harper separated the Christmas shoppers like Moses separating the Red Sea. And so I was like, okay, now who is she? And then all of a sudden I had another Christmas story. And then, I was like, okay, there, it's a very pink Christmas. And I was like, okay, now I've got another story. So can I get 5 more stories and just put out a book with 7 stories? And then it just started to snowball. No pun intended. And then, the irony was, it was like, I think we were in April. It was beautiful spring. It was a warm day out here. And I was like, oh yeah, Christmas, like it was like in the Game of Thrones, winter is coming, and I just kept feeling like Christmas was like around the corner instead of summer and the 4th of July. I kept feeling like, oh, it's cold. And I'm like, you're not cold, Kev. It's the air conditioning. It's not Christmas. But it just started to come to me and I just went with it.
I love that.
Yeah. So and then I did my first try at a flash short story.
Yes.
Yeah. Like a really short one, under 500 words. So I just started having fun. And, as a writer, when you're having fun,
it just goes,
right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It just goes and goes. And then hours later, you realize, oh, I have a new book here. Neat.
Yeah. Right. Or you have that one story, you have that one character. Like in Nowhere It Falls, I kept him and I kept the name of the town, but the first story that I wrote with him in it did not work. In the end, it needed to be much longer. And I just threw the whole thing out and I started over with it. And I really was happy I did because I felt like I came up with a little gem there.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
So yeah, that's how the Christmas, and it just propelled and
Yeah. And just for the folks at home, we are keeping track. We are now up to 2 Christmas puns. We'll see how many more we can do before the show wraps up. All right.
I love puns.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for puns and bathroom jokes. So
before we wrap this up, get it? We're up to 3 now.
Yeah. Okay.
We're going here. All right, let us talk about characters, because we've talked about Dash Winters, but your other stories, of course, all have their own characters. You have one story where a young boy creates a profound and mystical Christmas for his community, a woman who has a mysterious pink gift card, as you mentioned, the young man who hears the sound of snowflakes falling. Where do the characters come from? How do you make them?
So my article is going to come out on Writer's Digest on this, of finding that muse. As you know, as a writer, right, you're always looking for something. The way I found Harlow Harper was on the plane. Somebody passed me with a smell. Sometimes it's just a name, like Phineas Fitzgerald's Christmas list. Like his name just flowed off my, just flowed. I just felt like it was one of those things that kind of float. You could see it in the air. And I have a nephew who is a little bit of a character. And so I was like, okay, so if Phineas Fitzgerald looked like him and had a little bit of magic, but also was like a great empath, right? Like he wanted the best for everybody, truly. What would you get at from him? And so I have this kid from New York City who's 12 years old, who looks like he's 6, and he just has a little bit of a magic to him and a little bit of a weirdness that he sort of kind of celebrates. And there's a ghost in that one too, and some
Well, yeah,
wobbling
of
souls,
course.
and some wobbling souls.
Ah, I like this. Did you write these stories all at the same time, or was it done over the course of like several months, if not years?
Yeah, it was. This book was several months.
Nice.
Because after I had 2 down, I was like, okay, we're gonna try and get a book here. And so then I just stayed with the Christmas theme, and then I went looking for people. Like sometimes in my head, sometimes in life, because I feel like sometimes even if you just have a name and a concept like the sound of snowflakes falling, like they don't make sound. Rain makes sound, but snowflakes don't make sound, right? But for Sebastian Clover, he heard them, and that was like a meditation for him that kept him from doing, you know, harm to himself. That just kept him going long enough to meet Veronica Hall, and something magical occurred.
I like that. I like that. It kind of reminds me a bit of the I think it's the Polar Express, where the boy can't hear the sound of the bell ringing because like he's lost like the spirit of Christmas. But no, rather his parents can't because they've just kind of forgotten about it. But the boy can, right, because he still believes. It just kind of reminds me like a little bit of that. Do your stories ever take any nods or hints from like any kind of like classic Christmas stories?
I think any writer who said they didn't get an influence from another writer, a movie, a song is a liar. You know what I mean? Like,
very honest.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I think, it's that, but that did not come from Polar Express at all. It reminded me of, I think we all, maybe not all of us, but we go through periods of our life and sometimes we'll detach from it, whatever the incidents that happens. And I think his character more reminded me of like maybe Jimmy Stewart in It's a Wonderful Life, even though it has nothing like that in it. But Sebastian Clover reminded me of like that character. He's a really good soul inside. He's a young man and he's had multiple tragedies and he's left alone. And it's at Christmas, and he lives in a beach town, and he lives in one of the winterized bungalows in the beach town, which is basically the wrong side of the tracks. And it's the wrong side of the tracks because that's where the winterized bungalows are, because they were summer bungalows. And so he's sort of left alone at this season where, it's all about family and friends and togetherness. And he's finding beauty and comfort in the darkness and the snowflakes until he meets her.
Nice. Is there a favorite story?
So, I really like the story of Snowflakes Falling because it was the first one I wrote to get back into it. And it was much longer than when I went through the editing process. I edited a lot. I cut out periods of it to make it more digestible because it turned out to be like what I call it is it was a long short story. You know what I mean? It was so it was about, I don't know, it was about 15,000 words, and I think I cut it down to 10,000. So I had to cut pieces of it out. So,
wow.
But I love Phineas Fitzgerald. I also love Harlow Harper. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't particularly have a favorite. I think there's some magic in Phineas Fitzgerald because I do, even though I write it as, as dark at times, there is something beautiful and sweet about a little boy who is really trying to know his neighbors in a big city and bring that touch of Christmas magic to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I liked, I don't know, I really can't say there's a favorite, honestly, because I like them for different reasons.
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't want to compare them to like a kid. You know, like some people go like my album or my book. Oh, that's like, even though I love the stories and I love the characters, I don't know. I don't think I could pick a favorite.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like you said, like they're all your favorites, but for like different reasons. Some
Yeah.
because of the meaning, or maybe the character, or the story arc. It's all right. Now, Kevin, one thing I read on your website that I was really intrigued by is that you practice what's known as lucid dreaming, which in turn helps you with your writing. Now, I have no idea what lucid dreaming is. This is my first time hearing about it. Can you walk us through what this is all about and how it's kind of helped you as a writer?
Sure, absolutely. So I did not realize I had been doing lucid dreaming for a good portion of my life, and I never realized what it was. I just thought it was dreams. And basically, in my dreams, I have either like dead relatives or dead friends, people who have passed on, and they would come to me in the dream, and I would be aware that I was in a dream, but I was talking to them fully. Like my cousin Mike, after he passed away, him and I grew up together in New York and in New Jersey, and we were very close. And when he passed away fairly young, he was a young man, he was like 48. And he came to me in a dream, and I said, I go, oh, Mike. And then I said, hey, you're dead. And he said, yes, I know, but I'm okay. And then I was aware of it, and we had a conversation about like life. I said to him, do you ever visit your family? And he said, I do, but I don't let them know I'm there because I don't want to scare them. So that's sort of like lucid dreaming. It's like you're being aware in the moment that you're in a dream, but it's more than something like that. And I've had quite a bit of stuff like that. Like after my younger sister passed away, she kept coming to me in my dreams, and I kept saying. So one time in the dream, because I would wake up and I was like, I wonder why Ellen keeps coming to me in the dream. And I said to her in one of the dreams, I said, why haven't you moved on? Why haven't you seen mommy or daddy or our brother Michael? Why are you still coming back and forth? And she was like, there are things here that I haven't finished, and I still need to do it. So that's now somebody else might have a different idea of lucid dreaming, but that is my idea of lucid dreaming. And I've taken some seminars and some classes on it, but it's something that came natural to me. And the more, like, I try not to make it scientific. When you're in your dream, you're aware that you are dreaming, but you remember to ask questions, and you remember to make that dream something that you could use.
Nice.
And in the Jack Kelly saga, I had so many dreams like that were like, some people would consider like nightmares. And I was like, oh my God, this is a perfect scene. Like, you write horror, right? Because you wrote zombies. So you know how when you get that, like there is a scene in the Book of Demons, and it's a scene in the basement. And the editor said to me, how did you come up with that? And I was like, it was a dream. And I just was like, it's a dream that's coming to me at this perfect moment in time because I'm writing a story. And sometimes I will have a dream that's like that, and I will put it away. Like I'll write it down and I'll say, this will come to me sometime and be useful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my lucid dreaming.
That's so amazing. Now, do you do anything to like make these dreams happen, or do they just happen?
A lot of them just happen. Obviously, if someone passes away, that's the thing that happens.
Sure.
But if I'm missing somebody, or if I'm looking for guidance, what I'll do is, like, if somebody that you knew wore a certain type of perfume or a certain type of cologne, like your dad or something like that, and I'm really trying to make contact there, I will get that cologne and maybe smell it for a few days to see if something will ignite. Or I will read a poem that somebody might have liked over and over and over again. What's that poem by Wadsworth, right? Splendor in the Grass. So that I have a strong connection with my brother with. And so, like, if I'm trying to make contact, shall we say, without sounding like a lunatic here, I would, I will read that, or I'll read a passage in the Bible that somebody loved. And that's the way I'll try to, I'll try and throw that out there so that I'm like, if if this is true, if it's a spirit and not just my brain wanting it, this is a way for me to try and make a connection, because I still, even as you can see I'm not a child, I still, people will say to me, well, you have this psychic intuition, and I'm like, I don't really believe that. But I do believe, because I'm still not 100% sure, is like, did I want my sister to keep coming to me in the dream? Of course I did, right? Because I missed her and I was completely at a loss. But the things that she was saying to me in the dream were also very comforting to me, and would spill over into other areas of our lives. I mean, I could tell you the story if you want to hear this.
Please, yeah.
Okay. So after my sister had passed away, I used to call her the tea lady, because even though she was a couple of years younger than me, we come from, Irish roots. So we always had tea in the afternoon, and she was always the tea lady. So my wife and I would always, like, on her birthday, we would take her to like a fancy tea, or we'd buy her teacups, or we would buy her some kind of get up or something for the tea. So after she passed away, I was obviously in mourning and feeling bad. And I was at a yoga class at a gym with a big parking lot. And I kept thinking about her and wondering why she hadn't passed. She kept coming to me in the dreams. And I came out of the gym and I was looking for my car, and I got in my car and I looked, and there was something on the hood of my car, and it was a teapot. So it was such a trip, because I was like, here's the tea lady.
And that was just sitting there on your car.
Just sitting on my car. Now,
Wild.
I'm not saying that my sister came down, picked up the teapot, and put it on the car, but I'm saying, of all those cars, hundreds of cars in the parking lot, somebody picked it up and put it on my car. And the irony was, she used to always decorate her daughter's room with Hello Kitty. It was a Hello Kitty teapot.
That is wild.
So I felt like it was a shout out. You could say whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
However you think of it. So I don't know. Did I manifest that in my brain? Maybe. Some people would believe that.
Could be.
Is it the spirit world that's around us, maybe reaching out? Could be that.
It could be. I mean, yeah. I discount nothing, Anything's possible. So maybe.
I'm with you with that.
I hear that.
But I never tell anybody, oh no, this is it. I'm like, this is how I'm interpreting it. You interpret it the way you want.
Exactly. And I think that's kind of how we all get along. Rather than try and force a belief, we say, this is my thing. It doesn't have to be your thing. And if it's not, totally cool.
Yeah. If you think that's bonkers, that's fine.
Exactly. Yeah. You're welcome to.
I'll use it in my next book.
There we go. All right. Kevin, of course, we have to talk about Christmas itself, the holiday, our favorite time of the year. What does the holiday mean to you? Why is it so important to you?
Well, as I was raised to be a good Catholic boy, and so obviously I believe in the story of the whole Christmas story, right? And that God gave his only begotten son. So that's where gifting came from, right? And then you go into Saint Nicholas, who was the patron saint of children, and what he wanted to do. And he was also somebody who came from money. So he wanted to help the children that had nothing, gifting. And so my parents, even though I had, I didn't have a Norman Rockwell childhood. I grew up in New York City. My parents, I came from 5 brothers and sisters. My father was a construction worker who worked on the World Trade Center. Yeah.
Wow.
So there was a lot of cool history there. But my parents were at their best at Christmas time. And I just felt like everybody in the neighborhood was that believed in, that celebrated Christmas. So obviously we had other faiths there. And growing up in a Catholic school, Christmas was always a great time to sing and the parties. And so I love the idea of giving. And I'm not talking just about giving, somebody a watch or a present. It's just that time where you want to be better than you maybe are the rest of the year. And you're giving more of yourself. And of course, the lights, the music, the movies. I mean, you seem like a movie guy, so the movies are great.
Oh, yeah.
Christmas music. I mean, fantastic. And it goes on and on. I mean, you can go back to, I grew up with like Nat King Cole and the Christmas song and those kinds of songs that are like indelible, and they last. It's, and it just, I don't know, it could kind of reach back for you and give you like that memory again, and so, yeah, that's kind of why I love Christmas. And then having kids, like trying to make it special for them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And the, the Santa Claus, where that came from, it's like Saint Nicholas and then Santa Claus. And of course, a lot of people may not know this, but the Coca-Cola ad developed Santa Claus, right? The way we see him today. So, it's just fun.
It really is. Yeah. Holiday. I have 2 nieces, and they're still young enough that they still believe. So it's always wonderful to see like the videos that I'll get sent for them on Christmas Day as they walk down the stairs slowly and they see the whole spread and they lose their minds. Like they still have that innocence where Christmas is still just about being with your family and just I really like that kind of stuff.
Me too. I think it's the closest time we maybe come to magic all year long.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because it is a belief that there's something, whether it's Santa Claus coming down the chimney or the belief that, of the Holy Family or the Magi, you've got the wise men and all of those stories that are bigger than us.
Very true. Do you have a favorite part of the holiday? Is there one thing that you think this has to happen? If it doesn't happen, it's not the same holiday.
No.
Oh, good answer. I like that, actually. Very honest.
And I'll tell you why, because, not to be a downer here, but when I was a teenager, my mother died 2 days before Christmas. Christmas was the best time of the year for us as a family. And then it was the worst time of the year for us.
Sure, yeah.
And then rebuilding it and then trying to recreate your own memories and not be stuck in a sadness moment. And I think that's what happens with Sebastian Clover in that story, which is why I like him. No, I just think because you might find something better. You might find something different, and everybody has a theme. And it's like, I can remember like just Christmases that when I moved to Los Angeles, I moved away from everybody, right? Like all my family. And I think my father was out here, my 2 sisters and me and my wife. And we started creating our own memories, not even realizing it. Like my wife and I were going to put up a very little tree. And I said to her, okay, but we were like, I don't know, 20 and 21. So we walked around the corner to where the trees were being sold. Didn't measure anything in this little tiny studio apartment we had, dragged this tree back. It was too big for the ceiling. I had no saw, so I had a steak knife cutting the top of the tree to try and get it to stand up, and then we went to a place that's no longer in existence to buy light bulbs, and we had the cheapest light bulbs. We had lights, but it was magic. You know what I mean? It was our first Christmas, and it became traditional. And so after that, because we had such bad ornaments, we started doing on Christmas Eve, giving each other an ornament. And it started off with very small things to turning into fantastic, beautiful ornaments. And that became the biggest gift we give each other, no matter how cheap it was. It was like, okay, now comes the ornament. And we would do that on Christmas Eve, and no matter what else you could have bought the person a gold. I could have bought her a diamond ring and she would have been like, but the ornament.
Exactly. Where's the ornament? I like the ring, but where's the ornament?
Yeah,
exactly. I love that. My family for a long time we used to do Hallmark ornaments every year, and this was back when they actually had like the year written on the ornament. So we have some from 1980 when I was born, and like 81, 82, and so forth, and we still have all of them. And actually, my brother and I kind of split them up. So like he has some and I have some.
Nice. No, because it's meaningful. Because that ornament, not to get back to one of the books, but there is the first Christmas book. There is a Christmas. It's called The Christmas Tree.
Yep.
And it's set in an airport, and it was before TSA and all of that stuff, where you could actually walk to the gate.
Oh yeah.
And it's this Christmas tree that's really a time machine, right? People go up and they go, "Oh my God, this ornament was from when I was a kid," and then they touch it, and they are like transported back to a moment in time where maybe they have to correct something, or they have to remember something, or they just have to feel it again. So that's what triggers for me when you talk about those ornaments, right? When you look at them, it's going to bring you back to a certain time and place.
Sure. Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
And there's not a lot of holidays that can do that.
No, I really don't think so. I mean, like Christmas is kind of unique in that respect,
It's a combination of, right, the real spiritual, right?
Yeah.
The fun, Santa Claus.
Yes.
The food, the movies, the music.
Yeah.
The hot toddies, whatever
exactly.
you...
And there are like so many things too that can really also, like the ornament, take you back. Maybe it's a certain dish that you make every year, or a movie that you watch as like a tradition, or a song that you remember. Oh yeah, I remember hearing this when I was like 5 years old at Rockefeller Center with my like my dad and mom. So there's all these things that I think you don't get with like Thanksgiving or Halloween or 4th of July. It's really just Christmas.
I agree. It's like Charlie Brown's Christmas.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's something I must watch every year.
Oh yeah, it's a classic.
Even if no kids are around anymore, I have to watch Charlie Brown's Christmas.
Yes, of course. For me, it's the Mickey Mouse Christmas, like the 20-minute video that they did with like Scrooge.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know that one. Yeah.
I loved that as a kid, and I began watching it with my girlfriend a couple of years ago. And I realized, wow, this is really short. I remember it being a lot longer.
Yeah. Well, they were like, what? They'd be 22 minutes because they'd be on television and they'd have commercials. And Charlie Brown definitely does it for me. But I love, Scrooge. And I also love Dr. Seuss.
Oh God, yeah. We actually watched the Christmas Carol with Michael Caine, and seeing Michael Caine with the Muppets is such a weird contrast because he plays it so serious. It's like a car wreck, basically. So serious.
I love it.
It's amazing stuff. All right, folks. Well, we are coming down to the end of this holiday conversation, but Kevin, I do want to ask if is there like a central meaning behind this book?
A central meaning behind the book. Yeah, I think the theme, obviously we talked about it, it's like not Christmas, but I think every character, and maybe it's Christmas, maybe it's a song that brings it out in them, but I think they come to the realization that life is short, it's meaningful, and that they're better than they think they are. And it's just, never stop trying. Never stop trying to learn something, first of all, and never stop trying to be better. You're not. Like, how some people go, oh, this guy thinks he's the smartest person in the room. It's like, if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you got to go to a different room, or you've got to think differently in your head because you stop learning. And so I think all of these characters are open to that. They all, from Harlow Harper, who's, this fashionista, and she finds this. She's in debt up to her ears, and she's, this beautiful woman, and she finds this magical pink gift card. And at first she's like, Nirvana, because she thinks of all the things she could do with it for herself. And then she goes, oh, this isn't why I found it. And so that's what I think the book is about. It's like, it's not about you at Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, it is about you, but it's not about you.
Yep, exactly. All right. Last question, and this is the big one. Will there be a volume 3?
Yeah, I don't know. I just finished my 3rd book in the Jack Kelly series, Pandora's Box and Lost Boys. So I slid back into paranormal, and I don't know. I mean, yeah, I would say I hope so. Maybe I'll find somebody will walk past me with a smell, a scent, or I'll hear the snowflakes when I'm in the snow.
Yeah. So, something will happen, Kevin. I believe this. You'll hear that sound or that smell or hear that song and think, "Yep, we got another story."
Those jingle bells, right? Those bells ringing, and I'll be like, "Wait a minute, I have a story."
Exactly. All right. Well, folks, that is it for this episode. That is it for this season. Sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas and whatever holiday you celebrate. A wonderful holiday to you and yours. And Kevin, thanks once again. And I've been loving this conversation.
Oh, me too. The pleasure was all mine.
All right. Well, folks, that is Citywide Blackout. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you all next time. And with that, we bring this episode to a close. Thanks for listening, and if you haven't already, check us out on Facebook under Citywide Blackout, and Twitter and Instagram under Citywide Max. You can catch this and all your favorite episodes on your favorite podcast platform, and new episodes are added every week, as well as on Boston Free Radio every Saturday at 10 p.m. You get at me at citywidemax@yahoo.com if you want to suggest a guest, submit your music, or just drop us a line. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.